Incredible journey, a heartwarming encounter reveals her millionaire boss's unexpected love. In the heart of a cozy Midwest town, Sarah served steaming cups of coffee with a smile that could light up the dimmest diner. At 28, she juggled work shifts at Millie's diner with the heavy burden of caring for her ailing father, a once proud war veteran. Each morning, she woke before dawn, her heart heavy with worry but determined to keep her family afloat. The aroma of fried eggs and the chatter of regulars filled the air, offering her a brief escape from the mounting stress of medical bills and late-night worries. Just that day the sun broke through the clouds, coaxing out the fiery autumn leaves, but could it warm her weary heart? At booth 3, old Mr. Hargrove leaned in, recounting tales of his youth, the warmth tugging at her soul. She laughed at his antics, but behind her eyes swirled a storm of responsibility. Just then, the door swung open with a jingle, revealing a striking man, James. He slipped into the diner with an easy confidence, the kind that raised eyebrows. He was clearly not from around here, perhaps a city slicker, but his gaze landed on Sarah with an intensity that made her heart race. A studied distraction from her reality, yet still, a whisper of doubt nagged at her. Over the next few weeks, James became a fixture in the diner. He always ordered the special but lingered over his coffee, eyes drawn to Sarah as she moved gracefully between tables, sharing laughter and warmth. She felt flattered, but a deeper worry pricked at her. Could a millionaire genuinely care for a waitress? Society whispered that wasn't possible. With every visit, James peeled back layers of her heart, drawing her into conversations that felt raw and real, kindling something deep in her spirit. Then came news of a community cooking event, a chance for Sarah to showcase her culinary skills. It was her moment, a flicker of hope amidst chaos. But just as she dared to dream, her father's health took a turn for the worse, throwing her whole world into turmoil. The hospital waiting room was cold, like a thunderstorm brewing inside her. She clutched her phone, feeling the weight of bills and the ticking clock of responsibility. Could she really step away from her obligations, even for a moment? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the autumn festival approached, Sarah was torn. James sensed her struggle, his protective instincts flaring each time she mentioned her father. "You don't have to do this alone, Sarah," he said one night, sincerity gleaming in his eyes. But could a woman from her background accept help from a man like him? Especially when every fiber of her being screamed to hold on to her independence. With her heart pounding, as she prepped for the cooking competition, she felt hope and despair dance within her chest. Just as she found her footing in the heat of excitement, the phone rang with a sharpness that cut through the air. It was the hospital urgent news about her father. In that moment, everything shifted as reality crashed into her dreams, leaving her stuck in a dilemma no one should endure. Would she choose her father's well-being over aspirations she never thought she could grasp? And as the world faded into uncertainty, the question loomed large: could love save them amidst the turmoil, or was she destined to sacrifice hope for duty? The hospital walls felt even colder than before, a stark contrast to the warmth of the autumn outside. Sarah sat on the edge of a plastic chair, her fingers nervously drumming against her thigh. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled her lungs, and the soft beeping of machines was a haunting reminder of her father's fragile state. Each beep seemed to echo her thoughts: what if this was it? What if the opportunity to chase her dreams slipped away forever because of her father's needs? Just as she felt her heart sink deeper, her phone vibrated against the hard surface of the chair. It was a text from James: "Thinking of you. Let me know how it goes." A rush of warmth flooded through her. His support punctured the heavy fog of her worries, even if just for a moment. But guilt tugged at her. How could she think about anything else when her father's health hung in the balance? the minutes ticked by like hours as she waited for news. Finally, a doctor appeared, his expression somber but reassuring. "We've stabilized him for now," he said, placing a comforting hand on Sarah's shoulder. "But we need to keep monitoring him." Relief flooded through her, mixed with the ache of knowing that every single day would still be a struggle. As she walked out of the hospital, the sun was setting, casting a golden light across the town. Her heart still felt burdened, but deep down, there was a flicker of hope she had been given another chance, even if it was just for today. Her mind turned towards James. Maybe it was time to let someone in, to share the weight she had carried alone for so long. That evening, she picked up her phone to send him a message. "I could use some company," she typed, her heart fluttering at the thought. But before she hit send, doubt crept in. Was she being unfair to him by inviting him into her complicated life? Just as she hesitated, her phone dinged with a reply, "I'm on my way." Within minutes, there was a knock at her door. Her heart raced as she opened it to find James standing there, a little winded but smiling. He held a small container of her favorite pastries, the ones from the bakery down the street. "I thought you could use a little sweetness today," he said, his voice soft yet filled with concern. They settled into her cozy living room, the glowing lamp casting a gentle light. Sarah placed the pastries on the table, but neither of them reached for one. Instead, they really talked. With every moment shared, the walls she had built around her heart slowly began to crumble. She told him about her father, the worry, the late nights, and the fear of losing everything she held dear. James listened. The sincerity in his eyes told her he wasn't just hearing her, he was absorbing every word. "You're stronger than you know, Sarah," he replied, his voice unwavering. "But you don't have to face this alone. Let me help you, please." For the first time, she felt a weight lifting. Maybe letting someone in wasn't such a bad idea after all. As the evening wore on, Sarah felt a new possibility blooming in her heart. She had always thought love was a luxury she couldn't afford, yet here it was, warm and inviting, right in front of her. But just when she thought she could embrace this newfound hope, her phone rang again. This time, it was the hospital. The doctor's voice sounded urgent, and a chill washed over her. Would she be forced to choose between love and duty once more? Her heart raced as she glanced at James, who looked concerned but ready to act without hesitation. What awaited her on the other end of the call? Would this time be different, or was heartbreak lurking just around the corner? Sarah took a deep breath and answered the call, her heart pounding in her chest. "Hello," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Ms. Miller, this is Dr. Collins. I'm afraid there's been a development with your father," the doctor said, his voice a mix of compassion and urgency. The room seemed to close in around her. "What happened?" "We need you to come back to the hospital as soon as possible. It's serious." The words hung heavy, like a stone dropped in still water, rippling through her thoughts. Sarah glanced up at James, whose eyes were wide with concern. In that moment, everything else faded away, her budding feelings for James, the warmth they had just shared. "I'll be there right away," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. James immediately took charge. "Let us go," he said, already moving toward the door. Sarah was still rooted in place, fear gripping her. It felt surreal, like being caught in a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. As they stepped out into the cool air, the world outside continued in blissful ignorance of her torment. The streetlights flickered on one by one, illuminating their path, but for Sarah, nothing seemed bright enough to cut through the dread swirling in her stomach. They reached the hospital and hurried through the familiar hallways, anxiety mounting with each step. The smell of antiseptic hit her instantly, bringing back all the fears she had tried to push aside. "Sarah," James said, his hand finding hers. His grip was firm, grounding her. "Whatever happens, I'm here." His words wrapped around her like a lifeline. Just a few hours before, she had felt so alone in her struggle, but now, with him by her side, she could breathe a little easier. They arrived at her father's room, and the sight that greeted them twisted her heart. Her father lay frail beneath the sheets, his face pale, and machines surrounded him like sentinels keeping watch. A nurse was in the room, adjusting in 4. She looked up and met Sarah's eyes, her expression softening. "Sarah," she said gently. "I'm glad you're here. The doctor will come in shortly." As they waited, Sarah leaned against the wall, James standing beside her. The moments felt eternal, her father's gentle breaths echoing in her ears. Suddenly, her mind raced with unspoken worries. Would he recover? Would he ever get back to the life he loved? When the door opened again, Dr. Collins stepped in, his demeanor serious. "Sarah, I appreciate your quick arrival. Your father's condition has worsened, and we need to discuss your options." Her breath caught in her throat. Options? She felt her world collapsing around her. The thought of losing her father was overwhelming. James squeezed her hand. "Hey," he whispered, "we'll figure this out together." The strength in his voice, steady and confident, brought tears to her eyes. She didn't want to break down now, not in front of the doctor or the nurse, not when she needed to be strong. But what if she lost him? The fear threatened to consume her. As the doctor began explaining the situation, Sarah felt a whirlwind of emotions: fear, confusion, anger. Suddenly, she realized she had to make a choice not only for her father but for herself too. Could she still chase her own dreams while holding on to the fragments of an uncertain reality? Just then, her phone vibrated in her pocket. It was a text from her mother, simply saying, "I love you." The warmth of those words flooded her with more strength than she thought possible. As they prepared to make difficult decisions, Sarah felt the burden of both duty and self drumming a familiar rhythm in her heart. Would she have the courage to navigate both her father's needs and the path to her own dreams? The stakes had never felt higher, yet hope flickered in the distance. She glanced at James, who offered her an encouraging smile. They would face this together, whatever this may mean. In that moment of uncertainty, a new determination rose in her, but just as she gathered her thoughts, another call came through, this time from her best friend, revealing surprising news that could change everything. Would this news shift her focus away from the hospital, from her father, or could it somehow bring everything together? Sarah's heart raced as she stared at her phone. Her best friend, Lily, had always been the life of the party. The way she texted, it could only mean one of two things: something exciting or something alarming. She quickly glanced at James, who was listening intently to Dr. Collins, then back at the screen. "Sarah, it's urgent. I just found out something about your father and also about, well, something kind of huge with work. Call me ASAP." The buzz of anxiety twisted inside her, but the urgency of the message from Lily drew her away from the conversation in the room. What could possibly be this urgent? She quickly excused herself, stepping out into the sterile hallway, the sounds of the hospital fading behind her. Her fingers shook slightly as she dialed Lily's number, not quite knowing what to expect. After a few rings, her friend's cheerful voice burst through the speaker. "Sarah. Oh my God, I'm so glad you picked up. I got your message. What is going on? Is it about my dad?" Sarah asked, breathless, hoping beyond hope it was something benign. Lily hesitated, and suddenly Sarah felt her heart drop. "It's both. I found out that your father, he's been helping this charity behind the scenes. They're planning a fundraiser and need his input, but there's more. Sarah, you might want to sit down for this." "What do you mean?" Sarah's mind raced, trying to connect the dots. He is somehow linked to a big donor. That donor is actually, she paused for effect, one of the wealthiest men in the city. He has been helping to fund the charity project, and it's like, super secret. Sarah's breath caught. How does this even relate to me? Listen, I think he has been planning to, maybe brace yourself, introduce you to the donor. It could be an opportunity for both of you. I know you've been wanting a chance to get your career going. This could be your foot in the door. Confusion mingled with hope in her chest. The thought of aligning her future, especially in such a dramatic way, was both overwhelming and enticing. But my dad he's not well, Lily. I can't focus on anything else, Sarah said, feeling the weight of duty hanging over her. Of course. I get it. I just thought you should know. It's like this weird timing. Yeah, weird timing doesn't even cover it. Sarah leaned against the wall, clutching her phone like it was a lifeline. She could feel the turmoil stirring within her, the call from her father's doctor still fresh in her mind, heavy with implications. The prospect of her father's health intertwined with something that could change her future was almost too much to bear. Are you okay? Lily asked softly, bringing Sarah back to the moment. I don't know, Sarah replied, her voice strained. I'm stuck between two worlds right now. I can't think about anything except him, but what if this could help? The conversation faded into uncertainty, her heart an unsettling mix of dread and hope. As she ended the call and walked back toward her father's room, she felt torn. The idea of her father's secret contributions to a charitable cause was a revelation she wanted to celebrate, yet the emotional turmoil of potentially losing him overshadowed everything else. When she stepped inside, the atmosphere was tense. The doctor was gone, and only her father remained in the still silence, connected to machines that beeped steadily. She stood frozen, watching him breathe, the sadness settling in like a dark cloud. James, who had been pacing, turned and caught her weary eyes. What did Lily say? He asked gently. It might lead to something big for my career, but I don't know if it's right to even think about it right now, she admitted, swallowing hard. James took a step closer. Sarah, whatever you're facing, you have to make your heart a part of it. Sometimes, choices come at the worst times, but that doesn't mean they're any less important. Just then, the phone vibrated again. It was a text, but this time from her mother, stating simply, "He loves you." The words hit her hard, an emotional punctuation to everything swirling inside. Her heart slammed against her ribcage. What did it mean to weigh her future against her father's legacy? As Sarah looked into James's eyes, a new realization dawned on her. What if making a choice could be a way to honor her father's unwavering love? The question lingered between them, heavy with possibility, and just as she opened her mouth to speak, a commotion sounded from the hallway. It was the unmistakable sound of hurried footsteps, a frantic energy drawing nearer. What was happening now? Sarah's stomach twisted as the footsteps grew louder, echoing against the sterile white walls. She exchanged a quick glance with James, both of them instinctively moving toward the door, curiosity and concern blending every fleeting glance. Do you think something's wrong? She whispered nervously. James shook his head, brows furrowed. I don't know, let us find out. They stepped into the hallway, tension pulsing around them as they spotted a nurse rushing past, her face a mask of worry. Before Sarah could ask, the sound of a distant crash reverberated through the halls, followed by a murmur of voices, more urgent now. Her heart raced again, fueled by anxiety and panic. Stay here, James said, but Sarah didn't listen. She felt the draw of uncertainty pull her forward, each instinct telling her to uncover the cause of the chaos. They turned a corner and found a small group gathered outside another room. Faces were tight with concern, hushed whispers floating as if they were discussing something profoundly serious. Sarah squeezed her way through the crowd, her heart hammering in her chest. What happened? She asked a passing nurse. Emergency with one of the patients, was all the woman could say as she rushed by, pushing a cart loaded with supplies. Sarah could feel her breath quickening. Each word thrown around felt like it was tightening a noose around her. What if it was someone she knew? Then she spotted a familiar figure at the edge of the gathering, Dr. Collins. He seemed hurried, his hands moving animatedly as he spoke to a fellow physician. She grasped at the urgency in the doctor's voice, the worry etched across his features as he leaned against the wall, almost defeated. Dr. Collins. Sarah called out, her heart racing. He turned to look at her, realizing who she was. Sarah, what is going on? Is it my dad? Is he all right? She interrupted, fear spilling into her voice. Dr. Collins stared at her, a long moment passing that felt like hours. Finally, he sighed. I've been focused on your father. He is stable, but we've had a situation arise elsewhere nothing to do with him, but then what? She pressed, unsure if she wanted clarity or to retreat back into ignorance. They're in a critical state. Lives are at stake, and I need to help. Her chest tightened at the weight of those words. Can I do anything? Just stay calm. You're going to need to keep focus for your father, he replied, before hurrying off, leaving her unable to shake the cold in her stomach. James appeared beside her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. Let us go back. There's nothing we can do here. She nodded, but her mind raced. The thought of her father already in such fragile health against the backdrop of an emergency felt heavy. Why did this feel like another reminder of her precarious situation? It was as if the world was spinning out of control while she stood still. As they moved away from the commotion, another text buzzed in her pocket. Taking it out, she read her mother's words again, "He loves you." Tears pricked her eyes as she realized this was all connected. Every moment spent in this hospital was pulling her closer to a truth she was ready to face. If she lost her father, she also risked losing everything he represented: the hope, the love, the chance to create a future that aligned with the legacy he had built. Sarah, James began, but the words caught in his throat as he noticed her expression. I just don't know how to do this, she breathed, frustration mixing with sadness. Every decision felt like climbing a mountain, and she wasn't sure if her legs had the strength to carry her. Suddenly, another group rushed past them, and Sarah caught sight of a familiar face amidst the chaos. A man in a tailored suit, with a determined stride, pushing through the crowd. There was something ominous yet magnetic about him. She couldn't shake the feeling that he was tied to her father's world. Who is that? She whispered, her breath shaky. James followed her gaze, eyes squinting. I don't know, but he seems important, or maybe he is just another worried visitor. What if he has answers? What if the words faded as another possibility took shape in her mind? What if he held a key to her future, one way to save her father's legacy while honoring his love? With resolve setting in, she turned to James. I have to talk to him. Are you sure? He asked, concern lacing his tone. I have to know, she replied, a new strength forming within her. Before she could second-guess herself, she pushed through the crowd, determination fueling her steps. As she approached the man, her heart raced with the weight of hope and fear intertwined. Would he have the answers she desperately sought? Just as she was about to speak, he turned, locking eyes with her. Surprise flickered across his expression. Sarah, isn't it? He said, his gaze piercing. Do you know my father? The question tumbled out, desperate and raw. His response would change everything. Of course I do, he said, his voice smooth but layered with something Sarah couldn't quite decipher. There was a softness that belied the urgency of everything happening around them, but also an edge that raised her defenses. Who are you? She pressed, her pulse quickening as adrenaline spiked through her veins. What do you know about him? The man studied her a moment, as if weighing the truth against the consequences of sharing it. Finally, he took a step closer, and the crowd around seemed to fade away, cocooning them in their own world. I'm Daniel Hart. I'm a colleague of your father's, he said slowly, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. And a friend. Then you know he is sick. You know what's been happening, Sarah said, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. Her heart felt like it was about to leap from her chest and race down the hall. Yes, but that's not all. Daniel lowered his voice, glancing around as if to ensure nobody else could hear their conversation. There is something you need to understand about your dad. He's involved in something much bigger than just his health. Bigger than his health? What do you mean? She asked, feeling the weight of uncertainty settle deep in her stomach. Daniel hesitated, then cleared his throat. There are certain people and situations that rely on him. Your father, he is not just a businessman, he has connections. Influences. His voice trailed off, filled with implications that sent Sarah's mind racing. Connections? What kind of connections? She replied, struggling to grasp the enormity of what he was implying. The world around her felt like it had turned inside out. Powerful ones. And right now, they're in play. If your father's status changes, it could upend things for many people that don't play fair. He paused, holding her gaze with an unsettling intensity. And people who may not want you poking around. Her mind spun with confusion and dread. So what are you saying? That I should just stand back and do nothing while my father's life hangs in the balance? No. He stepped closer, leaning in as if sharing a terrible secret. What I'm saying is that you could be more involved than you think. You have a stake in this too, and it may shift everything you thought you knew. As he spoke, Sarah's heart raced. The pieces began to fit together in jarring holes, her father's enigmatic business dealings, the whispers she'd overheard. Why are you telling me this? She asked, narrowing her eyes with counterintuitive skepticism. Daniel paused again, his expression shifting from a businesslike demeanor to something almost vulnerable. Because I can see that you care, and I believe you deserve to know the truth. But I need your help as well. Help? She repeated, half in disbelief. What could I possibly do? There's information you need, and I believe with your father's condition, things are only going to get more complicated. I can assist you, but you need to trust me. His resolve hung in the air between them, almost tangible. Trust you? You're a stranger, she countered, feeling the familiar flicker of doubt. But there was something about his serious tone that gripped her. Stranger or not, I have information that could impact your father's life and his legacy, he responded, steady as a rock. The question is, are you willing to take the leap? With every heartbeat, a torrent of thoughts surged through Sarah. Could he really help? Or was he just using her vulnerability to draw her deeper into something she didn't understand? She had so many questions, but one stood above all: what if trusting him was the key to not just saving her father, but also uncovering the life-changing truth she'd been avoiding? Taking a deep breath, she clasped her hands tightly together. All right, she finally said, her voice steady. Tell me everything. But as Daniel began to speak, a new sound broke through the low rumble of alarms that echoed throughout the hospital, signaling a growing crisis. What's happening? Panic began to swell in her chest again. Stay close to me, Daniel instructed, concern flashing across his face. We need to move. Things are about to get chaotic. In that moment, Sarah couldn't help but wonder, as the stakes rose, what were they really getting themselves into? Sarah's heart raced as Daniel's hand firmly grasped her wrist, pulling her away from the commotion of the hospital lobby. The alarms blared overhead, a demanding siren that kicked her adrenaline into overdrive. She felt beads of sweat form along her brow, a mix of fear and confusion swirling inside her. Where are we going? She gasped, trying to keep up with his swift strides. There's a conference room down this hall, he said, navigating through the growing crowd of anxious faces. We'll be safer there. In the back of her mind, logic screamed at her. Who was this man really? Why was he acting like her father's life depended on their quick escape? Yet, another part of her, the part that was terrified of what lay ahead, urged her to trust him, if only for the moment. They burst into a small, dimly lit conference room, the heavy doors slamming shut behind them. The chaos outside faded slightly, replaced by the echo of their quickened breaths. Sarah took a moment to catch her breath as Daniel hastily moved to the door to check the corridor. Okay, let us assess the situation, he said, straightening up and turning his attention back to her. There's been a security breach. I can't say much more, but we need to stay alert. Your father's health crisis is part of something larger, and it just escalated. What do you mean? What is happening? She questioned, urgency mixed with frustration. The tension of their earlier conversation brewed like a storm within her. Listen carefully. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to just above a whisper. Your father had been working with some powerful figures, and there are those who would use this chaos to their advantage. Right now, they might see you as a pawn. Her heart sank. A pawn? Why me? Because you are his daughter and he is not here to protect you. You have to be smart, Sarah. I need you to stay focused. The sincerity in his voice cut through her rising anger, tinged with fear. I can't just stand by while my father is no doubt suffering, she replied, fists clenching at her sides. I have to help him. Daniel's expression softened, touched by her desperation. I know you want to, and together, we might stand a chance. But you have to trust me completely. What do I need to do? She pushed her doubts aside, locking eyes with him, feeling a strange connection and understanding that beneath his calm demeanor lay the same urgency and care for her father's well-being. First, we need to find out who is after your father and why. The information won't be easy to get, but I have contacts who can help. We'll need a plan. He paused, as if gauging her readiness. And we may have to move fast. A plan? What kind of plan? Daniel took a deep breath, visibly steeling himself. We need to split up and gather information. I'll create a distraction, and you can talk with your father's doctor. He may know more than he has let on. Talk to Dr. Hill. Sarah's eyes widened. She wasn't sure she could face anyone right now, but the thought of her father's doctor possibly holding the key was too compelling to ignore. Yes. But you'll have to be careful. If someone suspects you, they might try to keep you away from him. Before she could respond, the loud buzzing of a walkie-talkie cut through the tension, emanating from Daniel's pocket. He quickly pulled it out and listened intently. Bad news, he said, the urgency of his tone chilling her. We need to move, like, now. What do you mean? Fear gripped her again, twisting in her stomach. Security is being mobilized. They may be heading for this room. As the reality of their situation crashed down like a tidal wave, a singular thought echoed in Sarah's mind. Could they actually outsmart those who were out to harm her father? And more importantly, would she have the courage to face whatever truths awaited her? Daniel stepped to the door, glancing back at her with fierce determination in his eyes. Are you ready? With a deep breath, Sarah nodded, heart pounding. She knew this was just the beginning of an unimaginable journey. But could she really be prepared for what lies ahead? Daniel pushed the door open, the corridor ahead echoing with distant shouts and hurried footsteps. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat. The reality of the chaos just outside seemed so much bigger than them, but she couldn't back down. Not now. Not when it was her father's life on the line. Stay close, and keep your head down, he instructed, his voice firm yet urgent. Together, they slipped into the hallway, her senses on high alert, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Bright overhead lights buzzed, illuminating the path ahead but doing little to dispel the darkness lingering in her thoughts. What kind of trouble had her father gotten himself into? And why had they chosen to target her? Daniel, she whispered, catching up to him, what if I can't do this? What if I mess everything up? His eyes met hers, grounding her even amidst the brewing storm. You can do this. You're stronger than you think. Trust yourself and trust me. They navigated through the hasty bustling of hospital staff and security. It felt like a maze, unfamiliar and tense. She followed closely, attempting to lock away the gnawing fear clawing at the corners of her mind. The sight of nurses wheeling beds and patients frantically moving brought her back to her purpose. All she could think about was her dad. As they neared a corner, Daniel abruptly stopped, pressing against the wall. We need to be quick. Dr. Hill's office is just down the hall, but it's a hot spot. Many people could be looking for you there. The thought invigorated her. What do we do? If we can get to the office without being seen, I need you to ask him about the files, everything your father was working on. Understand? Heart thumping, she nodded. What about you? I'll draw their attention. Just promise me you won't hesitate. Promise. She replied, an earnest resolve filling her voice. Daniel took a step back, ensuring he was out of sight, before glancing at her one last time. His expression was a mix of confidence and worry, stirring something deep inside her. Realizing he was putting himself at risk for her and her father made her feel stronger but equally terrified. Go. He said suddenly, and in that moment, she saw him shift into action, the closure of their fleeting moment hanging in the air. She made her way down the hall, moving carefully, every sound amplified in her ears. A shaky breath escaped her lips as she reached the door to Dr. Hill's office. She hesitated for a brief moment. Would he even talk to her? Would he understand her desperation? Taking a deep breath, she knocked. The sound felt deafening. A shuffle came from inside, followed by a hushed voice. Come in. She opened the door, stepping inside. Dr. Hill looked up, surprise flickering across his face. Sarah. What are you, Dr. Hill? I need your help. Panic rose, but she fought to remain steady. It's about my dad. The doctor's expression instantly shifted. Is something wrong? Anxiety filled his features as he took a step closer. No, it's not that. But there's danger, and we need to talk about what he was working on. Everything you know, please. The urgency in her voice was palpable. She had to convince him that. He swallowed hard, glancing toward the partially open door. I can't talk here. If they're after you. But before he could finish, the door rattled. Panic set in. Dr. Hill. A voice boomed from the outside. Open the door. We need to speak with you. Her heart dropped. Time was running out. Would she be able to get the information she needed before it was too late? Would Daniel be all right? I'll handle this, he whispered to her, glancing back to reassure her before moving to the door. No. You can't. She couldn't. He let him put himself in danger. I have to buy you time. Just remember what I said. Don't hesitate. He opened the door just enough to peek outside. What do we do now? She whispered, heart racing, feeling the power of uncertainty course through her. As the voices grew louder, fear gripped her, intertwining with hope. What would happen next, and could she hold her ground while everything around her spiraled? With her father's life at stake and danger closing in, the gravity of her situation hit her like a tidal wave. Would she find the strength to forge ahead, or would the truth slip away just out of reach? The door creaked open slowly, and Sarah's heart raced as she could barely catch what Dr. Hill whispered to the person outside. All she could see was the tense expression on his face, the way his brows furrowed in that moment of decision. It felt as though the walls were closing in, each second stretching long, heavy with the weight of fear. Dr. Hill, the voice pushed through the partly open door again, sharper this time, we know she's in there. We're not leaving without her. She barely breathed, panicking. How could they have found her already? They had been so careful. Just a few heartbeats ago, the plan felt possible, but now, everything was crumbling away like dust in the wind. Dr. Hill stepped slightly into the doorway, shielding her from view. It's not what you think. Let's just talk. His voice was steady, but she could see the nervous quiver in his hands. Enough of this. Open the damn door. The demand came with an urgency that electrified the air. Sarah's pulse quickened as the shadows loomed closer, a chilling reminder that they wouldn't wait much longer. Trust me, Dr. Hill whispered again, but his eyes darted toward her, pleading for a decision. Their future hung in the balance, and it wasn't just her father's life on the line anymore, it was hers, too. Once more, that determination ignited in her chest. She had to act. Dr. Hill, she cut in, her voice steadier than she felt, let me talk to them. His eyes widened slightly, disbelief flickering across his features. No, Sarah, please. The desperation escaped her lips, and she felt a surge of strength propel her forward. If I don't, they'll barrel through that door, and then what will happen to us? He hesitated, and she could see the gears turning in his mind. Finally, he nodded reluctantly, stepping aside just as the voice outside escalated, pressing harder. All right, but you need to stay back and I will. She responded fiercely. It was now or never. There wasn't time for fear, the stakes were too high. With determination, she pushed past him. I'm coming out. She called, raising her voice for authority but feeling her hands shake slightly. The door swung open wider, and she stepped into the corridor, heart hammering against her ribs. 3 figures stood just outside, 2 sharply dressed men, tension pooling in their postures, and a woman who appeared less menacing, though the chill in her eyes suggested otherwise. Sarah, the first man said, a smirk playing on his lips, there you are. We were worried we wouldn't find you. The condescension in his voice made her feel tiny. What do you want? She demanded, forcing herself to stand tall, arms crossed as if it could shield her from their disdain. Come with us. We have some questions regarding your father's work, the woman said smoothly, her tone deceptively sweet. Why don't we find somewhere private to talk? No. The word erupted from her without thought. I want to go anywhere with you. All of this doesn't concern me. The tension in the air thickened, it felt almost suffocating. Sarah glanced back at Dr. Hill, who remained in the doorway, eyes wide and breath held, waiting. Every part of her screamed for him to help, yet she needed to stand firm. Sarah, let us not make this difficult, the second man interjected, his tone turning sharper. Your father is in danger, and we can help you. But you need to cooperate. The mention of her father sent a jolt of energy through her. You don't care about him. She shot back. This is all about the files. What did you do to him? The words hung in the air, electric. She could see the flicker of surprise and annoyance cross their faces. They had underestimated her, thinking her too passive. Do you really want to play games right now? The woman asked, stepping forward, her voice now low, promising dire consequences. An urgent realization washed over Sarah, her resolve strengthening. This was just the beginning, and she knew she had to protect her father's work. Get away from me! She shouted, burning with defiance. You'll have to go through me first. In that moment, just as the tension reached a breaking point, Daniel reappeared down the corridor, an unyielding look on his face, a silent promise of support. Relief washed over her. Then everything shifted. The familiar chaos of the hospital surged around them. Voices echoed through the corridor, footsteps pounding like an approaching storm. Sarah, come on! Daniel shouted, and in that split second, she understood her next move. Was she ready to leap into the unknown, or would she hold her ground, risking it all for the truth? With adrenaline pumping, she stole one last glance at her father's soon-to-be adversaries, determination igniting in her chest. Let us do this, she said quietly to herself, clenching her fists as she prepared to face whatever came next. Would they be able to make it through the chaos together unseen and unharmed? As the chaos of the hospital surged around them, Sarah steeled herself, realizing that the moment had arrived to reclaim her power. Daniel's presence beside her felt like an anchor, grounding her against the storm. The men's eyes narrowed, calculating their next move as they sensed the shift in her demeanor. Sarah, you need to come with us. The woman urged, desperation creeping into her voice, but Sarah stood firm, fueled by fierce determination. Curiosity ignited a spark of bravery deep within her. No. You want my father's work, but you're not taking me. Not now, not ever, she declared, her tone unwavering, forcing confidence to break through the fear. Her heart raced as Daniel nodded, just perceptibly, a silent understanding passing between them. Let us back off, he said, stepping protectively closer to Sarah. You're not going to intimidate her like this. The men exchanged glances, irritation flashing across their faces as they realized Sarah was resolute. Then, Something shifted in the air, a blend of stakes heightened by the urgency of the hospital alarm still blaring overhead. Fine. But this isn't over, the second man spat, stepping back but looming over them like a specter of intimidation. We'll find another way. With that, they turned slowly, retreating down the hallway, the echoes of their footsteps trailing behind them. But Sarah felt an unexpected surge of strength. She could breathe again, if only slightly. Is it over? She whispered to Daniel, her chest rising and falling with the echoes of fear still fresh in her mind. Did they really mean it? Is my dad? I don't know, but we need to take action. We're not safe yet, Daniel responded, urgency wrapping around his voice like a familiar cloak. Sarah nodded, her thoughts racing. I have to talk to Dr. Hill. He has to know they're looking for him, too. And I have to find out what's really happening, she said, the determination solidifying within her. Okay, let us move. We need to regroup and figure out our next steps, Daniel urged, leading her back towards the doctor's office. The adrenaline still surged, propelling her forward as they made their way through the hospital's dense hallways. As they turned a corner, a faint glow of light caught Sarah's eye, a conference room door slightly ajar. She felt compelled to stop, sensing that perhaps this could hold answers. Daniel, wait. We should check in there. He hesitated but finally nodded in agreement. All right, but stay close. They slipped into the room together, the air thick with the weight of secrets untold. Inside, a large table was set up, papers spread across with hastily scribbled notes. This could be it. This might lead us to the truth, Sarah murmured, a glimmer of hope igniting within her as she scanned the chaotic surface. Kneeling beside the table, she carefully shuffled through the papers, discovering charts that detailed her father's work, secret collaborations, and even names of people involved in what seemed to be a larger game than she could ever have imagined. Look at this, Daniel, she pointed to a name. This is the donor Lily mentioned. He's connected to everything. Daniel leaned in closer, his expression serious as he absorbed the information. We can leverage this. If your father really is involved at this level. But suddenly, footsteps echoed from the hallway outside. We can't be here. Daniel urged, glancing toward the door. They quickly tore themselves away from the documents, adrenaline pumping once again. Grab whatever you can. We need to take this with us, Sarah urged, feeling the urgency bore down on them. They gathered papers frantically, cramming them into Sarah's bag. They hastily exited the room, the sound of voices grew louder, chasing them down the corridor like shadows. This way. Daniel whispered sharply, pulling her towards a side exit. They navigated through corridors and back stairwells, adrenaline propelling their feet as they moved silently, creeping through the lifeblood of the hospital, the energy steady yet frantic around them. Sarah's heart pounded, but in her chest, the flicker of hope kept the darkness at bay. Finally, they reached an exit leading to the alleyway behind the hospital. Fresh air rushed in, sharp and invigorating. Sarah needed a moment to pause, to absorb what just happened. She could hardly breathe in the softness of the autumn air, feeling the warmth of the fading sun against her skin. We did it. We made it, she panted, her heart still racing, a smile breaking through the tension. But this is just the beginning, Sarah, Daniel reminded her, his gaze fierce as he took in her flushed cheeks and the resolve in her stance. With what we have, we can rally support. But it may not be safe for you out here for long. In that moment, Sarah understood the magnitude of their discovery. It wasn't just about her father's life but a network she had just begun to unravel. Somewhere deep down, she felt that finally, she had a chance to step out of the shadows and into the light of her potential. With Daniel beside her, she felt the chains of her burdens easing, one piece at a time. Let us go back and find your dad, Daniel said, gripping her shoulder gently. We'll do whatever it takes to protect him. Sarah looked into his determined eyes, feeling the embers of hope spark into a flame. Together, they would confront whatever lay ahead, no matter how daunting. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was a daughter, a fighter, and in this moment, she knew she had the strength to change everything. The future was uncertain, but with each step, she felt the tide turning in her favor. "Let us do this," Sarah declared, filled with resolve as they turned back towards the heart of the hospital. The battle was far from over. "Together," Daniel affirmed, echoing her sentiment, both of them ready to dive into the storm, hand in hand. What awaited them was unknown, but she was ready to embrace it, to fight for her father, for herself, and for the truth she was destined to uncover. This wasn't just about love, it was about family, legacy, and finding a place where all parts of her could coexist. As they stepped back into the fray, they held on to their hope, united by the power of understanding and trust, each heartbeat pounding with the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.